Like those failures you're talking about, we'll label them failures because God does use failure to learn. That's just what he does. But like even those can be so powerful to us when we hear what it is he wanted us to know in that. Like him telling me, I was just proud of you for hearing me. Like you heard me in the middle of the mall, you heard my invitation.
Hmm.
Like, dude, way to go.
It's so helpful because to just reframe the voice of God, I feel like what I was taught is you need to follow the impressions. And if you don't, then it means that you're not following God. It just means so much negativity about you.
The truth that changed my life, and it's the good news I tell everybody now all the time whenever someone's like, what is your witness? What is your good news? Is that God's never been disappointed in you.
Hey, friends, welcome to the Receive Experience podcast. My name is Tyson, and today I get to interview a good friend of mine. His name is Chris Fox. He is a coach with a company called Identity Exchange. And I've interviewed other coaches, and maybe I'll put a link in the description to some of those interviews with those coaches. But what I love about Chris is that this was just a casual conversation between friends, and you just get to kind of peek in on the experience and on the stories that we share and on even my own wrestling with some questions. And I hope by now you realize that I'm not trying to be a guru in the sense that I have all the answers. I know a guy who does have all the answers though, and that's God. That's Jesus Christ. And all I know is my own experience of working with so many people, of what gets in the way of that relationship, what I've experienced, what I've seen other people experience, and the patterns that arise. And as I talk and interview different people, those patterns, those ideas, they come together and help you to access God in new ways. Like for me in this conversation, I was able to access a deeper love from God. That when I mess up, when I make a mistake, when I don't listen to a prompting, that God is right there and he's not disappointed. So you're going to hear more of that. I'm excited for you to engage in this conversation, just listen in on it, learn from it. It's powerful. And the more that you do this, like subscribe to this channel, invite others to subscribe to this channel, because every conversation and every time you listen in, you're going to learn in a new way, a different aspect, a different way of approaching this relationship with God. And the more that you strengthen that, the more you're going to live from a place of peace, from a place of love, and that's going to create freedom in your life. So that's what I want for me. That's what I want for you. And I'm excited for you to just engage in this conversation. So here we go with my interview with Chris Fox. How are things going? There was a period of time, it was just within the last week, where Barry and I, we did the Hearing God Challenge, and we were, for 5 days straight, we were on with people and really giving a lot of value, helping people to connect with God. And after that, I felt like there was a little bit of a slump, and it felt kind of like
Oh,
burnout. And I'm just
oh,
like, And it was just a few days ago that I'm talking to the Lord about just this feeling. I want this to be joyful. And it's like, I'm not feeling the joy. What's going on? And it was just an aspect of me trying to take control of all of it.
mm,
The only reason why we would ever tire is because we're the ones doing the work.
yeah,
It's like, if I'm willing to truly show up, to fail miserably, and know that God's there, there's no pressure. And
yeah,
life can become fun. But when there is pressure, you think you need to perform and you need to get it right, and you're the one that's in charge of all of that and to make sure that it happens, then yeah, of course we're going to burn out.
yeah.
So that's been something I feel refreshed, renewed, and in the smallest and simplest ways, the Lord is just helping me to relearn this lesson, because it's just layer by layer that I'm removing the pressure of needing to perform. So that's
I
me.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was thinking like, where does the exhaustion come from? Like what you were just kind of describing. And I thought it comes from when I think I need to be the expert in the room.
Hmm.
That's a lot of pressure. And I'm learning that when God invites me into something, he says, I'm the expert in the room. I just need you to go and talk about me. And yeah, so
Yeah.
and I'm also learning rest. When he first told me, hey, in this, I'm sure we'll get to my seasons that I've been going through here, in my
Yeah.
experience with him. But what I heard pretty quickly was rest. And I would say that my definition of rest from 9 months ago has changed to what my definition of rest now would be. And that is that he can energize and fill you while you're doing things. Rest is not sitting on the couch going, well, I guess today I'll do nothing. I'm learning rest is like resting in him means let's go on an adventure today.
Mm.
Like, what do you like? Do you want to go do something fun? Do you want to go build something with me? Do you want to go meet somebody new today? And you can still, at the end of that day, going through all of the steps of whatever he takes you and invites you into, you can still be totally full of energy and rested, even though whatever it was that he had you do. So I would say that that
Yeah.
has been a big game changer for me too over my course of leaning
Well,
into him.
just for fun, let's just talk about it.
Cool.
So, because I do see the common idea around rest is nothing. Let's do nothing. Let's sit on the couch. And I would agree with
Yeah.
you that that's not the view of what rest means. And so I'm curious about how you've seen that play out as as you have had the redefinition. Like, what does that look like for you now?
Okay. Maybe I'll start with what it looked like in the beginning. I stepped out of, you and I have talked about this, but I stepped out of a long career at Verizon Wireless when I had found my identity and was really wrestling with like, what does this mean, Lord? Like, read Jamie and Donna's book, kind of was learning listening prayer for the first time. Always walked with the Lord my whole life. I would say I was a believer my whole life.
Hmm.
And after hearing my identity, and at the same time I was going through living fearless, I was also reading a book by John Mark Comer called Practicing the Way. And he has kind of some terminology that he uses for following Jesus and he calls it being an apprentice. That's his kind of way of shifting the perspective on what it means to follow Christ. And that's when I was kind of the realization of, wow, my whole life I've believed in God.
Mm.
I knew who he was. I sent my emails up. I hoped I got responses to those emails. Sometimes I did. I, I'm learning this. I'm speaking from old me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what kind of slowly changed as I was going through that was, wow, like there's a difference between knowing who God is, and that's a very important step. Obviously, I'm not
Yeah.
discounting what the power of becoming a believer is, or at least making that declaration that I do believe in him. But becoming a follower, which is what Jesus said all the time when he met his disciples, he would say, hey, follow me. That's very different than, hey, do you believe in me? Like I'm standing in front of you. Of course I believe in you. There you are. It's hard not to believe in you. But he was like, follow me, learn from me, listen to the way I talk to people, learn from that, figure out your way to do what I'm doing, mimic me, right? So that's that apprenticeship that I feel like
Mm.
changed my perspective on how I even define kind of the different transformation that I've been through in this process is like, okay, there's like little Chris
Mm.
who was just an innocent kid walking through the world, whoever that was, and then did somewhere, I think it was junior high or maybe probably around 10 or something. I kind of like started to really learn who is God. And that's when I would say I, believed that I started to believe it. Like, okay, how does this work? To me, it was transactional. Like, oh, I guess I just do stuff for you or I ask you things and somehow this magic. And then that was pretty much my life for 30 plus years,
Yeah.
living in that, like, how do I be a good person? How do I be righteous? Didn't really understand it. Went to church, check the box, read
Yeah.
my Bible, try to be a good husband, try to be a good dad, but all out of my own power, striving, exhausted, like you were talking about, because it's all, thought it was all me. That I had to perform for him, perform for my wife, perform for my kids, perform for my family. And so when I read that book and started to read Jamie and Donna's book, Living Fearless, hearing what my identity was, I remember sitting there going, okay, God, if you call me this deliverer of mystery, that's what he told me, which I'm still learning
Yeah.
2 years into it.
Yeah.
It's still a mystery.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to walk another step on the old path I was on.
Mm.
So how do I go full in? I want to walk the path of the deliverer of mystery. And I don't even know what that path is or where it's leading or how it looks or even how to walk on that path. And so I remember that was kind of that defining moment for me where it's like, okay, this is when I'm going to shift from just saying I believe something, but
Mm.
to, all right, now I'm going to follow after you. So what does that look like? What does rest look like? What does Sabbath look like? What does fasting look like? These things that he did, that he invited us to mimic and be like him. And so I can remember that being kind of that defining moment when I shifted. So then I would say that, okay, I am an apprentice of Jesus. I am trying to learn to follow you. And I remember that being like the big shift. So some of the first couple things that just happened in that journey for me was I realized really quickly what I'm doing for my vocation does not line up
Mm.
with who you say I am. And I knew that just from being in frustration at work, being drained all the time, being someone who was easily offended, someone who wasn't connected with the people I was working with. We were always in competition or at odds somehow. And I just remember as I was on this journey, I started to realize, wow, okay. And I started, well, I shouldn't say read, I was asking God these questions like,
Yeah.
Lord, what what would it look like? What would a vocation look like for someone who is a deliverer of mystery? What would that look like? What would that job be? And I remember my wife and I having a lot of conversations about it, trying to really, and she asked me one day, well, what brings you joy? And I couldn't answer it. I sat there for a while, like truthfully, like honestly, right? We could all give, oh, I love playing hockey and I love, but it wasn't like, well, what brings you joy? And I had to wrestle with that for a while. And over the years now, looking back, I can tell you what it was. But in that moment of trying to discover, it was just little glimpses of
Mm.
things. We threw an engagement party at our house for our friend's daughter who got engaged. It wasn't even my friends. I mean, well, the parents were my friends
Yeah.
and the daughter we knew her whole life. But the other 50 people at my house, I didn't know. And I remember watching that party happen and like just the joy and the connection of all the people. And I leaned over to my wife and I said, this brings me joy. I like connecting people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can remember that opening the doorway, at least to me, going, okay, so somehow I need to, in my identity, I need to figure out how I connect people together. And identity was really like, has really been kind of the center revolving force that is it's the glue that's kind of held
Yeah.
all of this. Jamie talks about when he was in the movie theater and he was watching Serpico and like becoming a police officer like named him like, oh my
Right.
goodness, my identity is somehow something about this, right? And so that's what I felt like when I first podcast I ever heard about identity. That's what named me, was identity. There's like something in me whenever I talk about
Mm.
identity or learning people's identities, my brain just starts going, yeah, I need to connect this identity, and that would make this other new identity, like, blah, 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 like so, yeah. So as I was getting into this identity piece, I'm trying to figure out what does this look like and who do you want me to be? And I pretty quickly realized like, oh, it's 100% around connecting people. I need to
Mm.
connect people. And so, yeah, so my journey is really, really quickly in that, like really after I read the book, I took Becoming What You Believe.
Mm-hmm.
really dove into like, who is God? Like I remember wrestling with a lot of the challenges in there and like my view of God. What is
Mm.
the right view of God for me? And I remember asking one of the questions we had to ask that still to this day I have to keep asking is, Lord, where do I feel like you're not enough?
Mm.
And it's still one that I got to bring up. Like when I just did it 2 days ago, that same question, like where is it right now, Lord, that I'm feeling like you're not enough? And it's typically when we get fearful or frustrated or tired or
Yeah.
exhausted, because that just tells me right there that something is in my thinking, right? We know the truth of the scripture, like he's always with us. So if I'm feeling distant, it's I know where to start looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that that question alone for me, if ever I am not in a place of peace or a place of joy, then that's an indicator, at least, for me to check in and say, like, I can see myself using that question in those moments. Because
Yeah.
the only reason why I wouldn't be in a place of peace or joy is because I'm not believing God is enough for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The other one that I catch myself doing, I don't know. I mean, I know you know who Paul Young is,
Yeah.
but for the people who don't know who he wrote The Shack, but anyway, he uses this term called future tripping, where he'll think of things in the future and then kind of like get anxious about kind of like, oh, what are the things I need to do? Is this the right job for me? Am I making the right decision? And you're kind
Mm,
of starting to go into the future and you're thinking of events that haven't happened yet, whatever they are, and you get anxiety from it. And what I'm learning through this process, through the community that I'm in, is that when I get anxious for those future things, it's because I'm imagining them without Jesus in them.
yeah.
You know, like that thing where I start going, man, is this the right decision? Should I be? It's like if I really stop and look at that, what I'm doing is I'm imagining a future, and I don't see Jesus in that future, so I'm starting to panic and I'm starting to feel anxious. And what
Yeah.
he wants is to just like, hey, let's not even future trip at all. Like, let's talk about today. I'm with you right now. I'm right here. Ask me what you want to do today. What do you want to do today, Lord? Is there
Yeah.
a side quest? That's what I call it, side questing. He's going to tell me to go on a side quest today. We're going to go do something crazy or random or.
When you wake up in the morning,
Mhm.
what questions do you ask God?
Mm. So typically for me, a morning would look like, well, it's busy,
Yeah.
and that's life. But my type of questions are, okay, so in my true identity, Lord, where do you need me today? Or for example, what my other identity is wind to energize and move people. I'm a Tigger, is what my wife would describe me as, someone who's very enthusiastic and energetic. And so that identity of wind, when I received that identity, it was like he just showed me a picture of a sailboat, like this big sailboat with their sails out, and the wind is just pushing that ship.
Yeah.
That's you. You energize and move people, and not just move them, you move them towards me.
Mm,
And how he kind of has over time shown me how my two identities support each other is you don't just move them, but you move them towards mystery. He's the mystery,
yeah.
you know. And so when I hear that identity, or when I wake up and I'm like, what do you need from me today? Where do you need me to go today? Who needs wind today? That's another question I'll
Mm,
ask. Who needs wind today? And names will start popping in my head.
mm,
And so typically I just have my journal with me usually, and I just start writing them down.
mm-hmm.
And the practice or the discipline or whatever we want to call it, I like calling it practice because I feel
Yeah.
like practice it's a much less negative term.
Yeah.
The practice for me is, okay, people ask me all the time, oh, how do you know you're hearing from God? Because I practice and I fail and I practice and I fail. And my practice started out as like, who needs wind today?
Yeah.
And then I just listen. And sometimes the names are the same. Sometimes I get repeats a lot. Other times it could just be some random person I haven't talked to in a long time. But I'll write those names down. So then my practice is, okay, now that you've brought that person to mind, and I kind of just write out until I feel like I'm not really getting any more names.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they're written out, then I go back up to the top of the list and I go, okay, you brought up Johnny to me, Lord. What is it that you want me to be praying for, or like give me more? So now I'm asking, what do you want me to know about Johnny? Essentially,
Yeah.
is kind
Yeah.
of the question. And then again, I just sit quiet and let the words that pop into my head are usually words that are truth words, like beloved, he's trustworthy, peace, kindness, gentleness. It's just fruit of the spirit, like
Yeah.
truth words that as I've experienced this, I've just kind of learned are that it's truth. Well, here, let me just read one from a recent, just to kind of give you an idea. Like here's for this particular person, these are the words I got for him: restoration, forgiveness, transformation, connection. Another person: rest, peace, truth, understanding, worthiness. These are the kind of things that just will come to my mind while I'm thinking about them, and I jot them down.
Mm-hmm.
And as I get to that list, sometimes I just sit on the list. Or sometimes I'll say, now what do you want me to do with the list? Sometimes they'll say, now I want you to send them a message.
Yeah.
So a lot of this practice for me was like, okay, I'll go take a risk here and text
Yeah.
these guys. And what I've learned through my experiences, I'll say something like this: hey, this morning in my quiet time, you came to mind.
Yeah.
It's not a lie, it's true.
Yeah.
I'm not freaking them out saying, thus saith the Lord, or anything,
Right.
but I just say, hey, you came to mind this morning while I was in my quiet time. And when I was just contemplating you, these are the words that came up. I hope
Mm-hmm.
I hope they have I hope they give you a blessed day, or I hope they, move you, or hopefully they have meaning to you, or just wanted you to know this is what
Yeah.
I was thinking about you today. Something very simple like that. And I would say I get about a 50-50, which
Okay.
is probably a pretty, I don't know what that percentage is, but it's about 50-50 that that person needed that day. I
Yeah.
get that about 50% of the time, like, wow, I needed to hear that truth today. I was really feeling alone, and your message just really lifted my spirits, right? I was
Yeah.
wind. I put wind in their sails.
Yeah.
The other 50, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't know what to do with it, or maybe they
Yeah.
just like didn't have time to read it. That's okay. That wasn't for me to decide. I just threw seeds, right? Kind of like scriptures would say, "Hey, I just asked you to throw some seeds out today. Don't worry about watering them, and don't worry where they land. You just keep throwing them."
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like one of the practices that I do on a regular basis. And that typically will open a door to, man, you know what? You sent that message, and I just want you to know, like, I'm really struggling in this area right now. And then for
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm like, perfect. That's a follow-up.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to go grab coffee and talk about that? And now I can just go be a minister, or whatever
Yeah.
the term you want to use is. I'm not credentialed or affiliated with any religious organization. I just go love on people like Jesus did.
Yeah.
So that's an easy way for me to just be like, hey, you want to hang out?
Yeah. So,
So
as you're in the practice of following,
yeah.
for me, sometimes, I don't know if one way to describe it is getting lost in the default of life and just going through the motions
Yeah.
versus connecting with the Lord in all my ways and seeking his relationship wherever I am and
Mhm.
whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
One question that I've loved and used in the past is, what am I doing that God didn't invite me into? And it's
Yeah.
like, I'll ask that question at times, and I feel like a common sense is that it's not this, you know,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
or it's just like, well, it just puts in my mind, what are we doing? What are we doing with our time and with the things in front of us? And so there's also a part of me though that is sometimes afraid to be in that constant relationship because of what could occur. And my mind goes to all the places of what crazy things the Lord might lead me into that are scary to me. And it could be as simple as, yeah, go over to your neighbor that you haven't really talked to or met in a while and just talk to them. Like, that to me is still scary. You know? So I don't know what you would say to that, but what's your experience?
So I bravely asked that question, I would say it was the beginning of summer last year. And at the time had a lot of different roles and responsibilities within my church. And
Hmm.
when I asked the question, the first thing that popped into my head was I'd been doing some form of high school youth with my current church for 4 years before that, a lot of years before that with my other churches. So just kind of love that age group. So anyway, I've been doing high school ministry for a while. And God, when I asked that question, he literally was like, yeah, it's high school. And that really shocked me because I'd been doing it for so long and there's so much fruit there, in my opinion. There was so
Yeah.
much fruit there. And even when I went to the youth pastor and talked to him about this, he was like, what? No, like you're my number one dude. Like you're my Peter, you're my rock. I can
Yeah.
always count on you. You're always here. I can ask you to do anything. You'll always do it with. So when I went to him and I'm like, yeah, this is what I prayed, Lord, what have I been doing for you that you never asked me to do? And he pointed out that one, like it kind of broke my heart. Like, what?
Mm.
So I had to really wrestle with it. And I asked him, I'm like, Lord, like, but there's so much truth there. Like, how can you say that you didn't call me to this? And he said, I'll show you. And he took me to the exact moment when I made the decision in my head. We had just started this church. I'd been there only for 2 months. My kids have been going there for a year for this high school ministry. It's huge and it's at their high school. It's where this church meets. So I had come because my son just said, Dad, will you come check out my church? And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, I'd love to come check out your church.
Mm.
And so we, as a family, we really liked it, and we knew not lots of people in that community. So we started going there. But I was so new, I didn't know anybody, and they were going on a youth mission trip to Mexico, build houses for
Hmm.
people who didn't have the money to build houses. So that would be fun, and I might meet some new people. So I signed up to go on this trip, and it was life changing for the students, for me, for just to see how being and serving out to the least of these made me feel. And I remember he brought me right to this memory. He's like, it was right here at the end of that trip where I told myself I have to go on this trip again next year because it was so impactful for me. Therefore, I have to get involved in high school ministry or they might not
Mm.
let me come back next year. And he's like, it was right there where you made the decision. And he's like, I blessed it anyway. Don't get me wrong.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
but I didn't call you to this. And that was the question I specifically asked him. What have I been doing for you?
Yeah.
And then he started giving me this flood of times when I felt drained and tired and exhausted. There was many times he brought to mind where like I was driving to our Monday night. I just was feeling like, what am I doing? Like it wasn't energizing me. It was kind of draining me.
Mm.
And I remember, like, I had to journal through that. I had to literally write myself this little pep talk to give myself before I went in every time. It was
Mm.
like, who am I? Who is my identity? You're here to connect with these kids. And it was like, it was the way I kind of forced it worked. I
Mm.
mean, it would put my mind back into a right perspective, but it was him showing me graciously. Like, I didn't have guilt or shame about it, but it was like
Yeah.
that you chose this. This was and you're doing it. And I'm blessed in it. Don't get me wrong. There's fruit for sure. But so I remember like having to wrestle with that. Like, so what does this mean, Lord? Are you asking me to step out of this? Are you and eventually, yeah, that's what happened was I stepped out
Mm.
gracefully. It was not like, abrupt and ugly or anything, but I stepped out and then it was a season of now what?
Yeah.
Almost like, well, that was kind of my church identity was I'm Chris. I'm the guy who is always there and work with the high schoolers and yeah, so it was good. And then there was stripping away and there was breaking down. And this is where I did a lot of the work on is this transactional? Is this not like the doing questions? Like, but so you don't need me to do that? Like, but I thought I should
Right.
be serving you. And
Right.
so all those questions come up and
So, how would you say you're following of the Lord and just being more deliberate about your identity in connection, how's that impacted your family?
Oh, it's a great question. My wife praying for this meeting before she took off to her meeting. She was praying for this, and that was what she said. She was like, "Thank you, Lord, for how much hearing from him has transformed our entire family." So let's see, how can I best describe it? So my journey was for me. I was not trying to push this into my house in any way. This was a discovery for me. But as you would know, I'm sure, as God transforms us, like it just overflows to the people around us. The first step in the journey for my family was because identity is so important to me, and I love knowing people's identity. So I know how to talk to them, how to engage with them, I basically wrote my own little, I called it a family. We're gonna have a family meeting on Tuesday night. And the family meeting was, I had written this, okay, I want you, and it was geared towards my kids who were pretty young at the time, like elementary school. I had one in like junior high and two in elementary school at the time. So I wrote it like, hey, what are the names that people at school call you? Like that was kind of the
Mm,
way that I started it out. I want you guys to think about, what are the names that people at school call you? What are the names that when you do something wrong that you hear? That was dumb. You were stupid. And I just walked them through that process of saying, like, okay, now if you were to be in a safe place, and what would that safe place look like? And it was amazing what my children came up with on their own.
mhm,
And because they had no idea, I was just coming in totally cold with them. They had no idea. This was like a really laboratory of testing, you know. And I was like, this was my first chance to fail miserably. And it almost did. We got in a fight before it even started. And my wife had to stop everything and like pray and like
mm,
because I was like, well then forget it. We're not gonna do this. So embarrassing. But he used it. And yeah, like the thing, like my son was his safe place was his car. Like he has
mm,
this forerunner, you know, and it's like, it was my car. And I'm like, okay, well, where's Jesus? Well, he's the car. Like, what? Like,
mm,
okay. I don't know. He's like a protection around me, and he moves me places, and I'm safe there.
mm,
And I'm like, wow, okay, wow, that, yeah, okay, I get that. I can see that, you know. And so we went through the process of just like, well, what does the Lord call you? And one by one, I got to hear my whole family. My son, my oldest, who had the forerunner, he said, oh, he called me a bringer of peace.
mm,
Was like, wow. And then my next son down, it's in my middle son, he is a defender of the weak. And then my daughter, who's the youngest, she's had a lot. Her newest one right now, she is a painter of stories. She loves art. She loves to draw. She loves to watercolor and paint. So painter of stories. And in the beginning, I think he called her a kind friend, was what she heard.
mm,
And as we've worked through that, you know, she's heard a lot more. But yeah, right now that's her identity, is like that she just every day is living in, is she's a painter of stories. And my wife heard quiet defender. And so just hearing those kind
mm,
of changed the culture of our house because it gave us something to talk about. It gave us something, like, for example, when my oldest was, he's the bringer of peace. He would come home and he would be like, oh man, I had a hard day. These, friend groups I'm in were wrestling. I don't know what to do, Dad. What should I do? And he's coming to Dad for advice. And it gave me a way to just turn around and say, I don't know. What would a bringer of peace do in that?
mm.
And just that verbiage, that language has allowed our family to at least like go, huh, yeah, you're right. Like, hey, you can hear from God. What
Yeah.
does he want to say to you as a bringer of peace? What would a bringer of peace, what would God want you to do in that situation?
Mm,
And so I would say through this whole journey, that's been the biggest shift in our family. And it didn't take long. So that's been the progression,
wow.
and how it kind of started with the family part. And now they know who they are. Yeah. So I don't know if that answered your question,
No,
but
that's perfect. I just thought
okay.
to ask you about that. But going back to the rest question and the
Yeah.
transformation, I guess what I can see and what I've even experienced in my life is I can be so hyper vigilant about seeking to listen to God in all ways that it becomes
Mhm.
a tiresome thing.
Yeah.
And so I guess what's your new definition of rest, and how does it show up in your daily?
Yeah. Okay. So earlier we were talking about like I would ask in the morning, hey, who do
Mm-hmm.
you need me to encourage today or whatever. So that's just one way that it would start to just bring somebody to mind. And then the rest part is like, okay, so how do I then help this person, or how do I go about reaching out to that person and connecting to them? So to me, rest is always in connection, right? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
just so key to my identity. I need to be connected to others. So I find myself in rest by going out and just taking steps too. So sometimes I don't hear something in the morning about what today is going to be like. So I just got to go start my day. So what is my day going to look like? Well, an example, I'll pick up, get the kids, go grab the neighbor's kid, drive them to school.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I start my day, right? So I'm driving kids to school, and there's a particular day when I'm driving them to school, and there's a lady on the side of the road who's sitting in a wheelchair. She's got like a little sign that says, "Please help," I think is what it said. And so, it's just an example of how the Lord would interrupt a normal day of me just doing what I'm doing. He'd say, "Did you see that girl back there?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I want you to go talk to her. Those kind of things.
Mm.
Invitation, risky, scary. I'm like,
Yeah.
You want me to go talk to a stranger on the side of the road? Like, what am I gonna say? That kind of a thing. So that's
Mm.
an example of how, like, just you're just doing your normal day, and then he goes, "Hey, I want you to go talk to this person," and then you come back. Or I came back. I dropped my kids off. I came back, pull over, just start talking to her. Like, what's your story? Tell me your story. Is there anything you need?
Mm.
And just the beautiful story that came out of that. I won't tell the whole thing, but like the beautiful story that came out of it is as random as it is. She lives alone and she's lonely.
Mm.
And she said, "You know what? I've always," because I asked her something like, "Is there anything I could like that you need, like tangibly, And she goes, "Yeah, living alone is really sad and lonely. And I've always wanted but could never afford a Nintendo Switch." So random. This is a grown woman, mind you, too. But I could tell when she said it, and I go, "Well, what kind of games do you like? Like, I play video games. Like, what kind of
Yeah.
games do you like?" "Oh, I love Paw Patrol, all the little ones, like the ones that the little kids would play." And I could just see this little window into her heart, that
Mm.
there's just that little kid inside of this grown adult who connected. And I remember that day was one of these little side quests where I was like, "All right, Lord, where the heck do I get a Nintendo Switch?" And we went off on our adventure together, and imagined him sitting in shotgun with me as I drove from store to store trying to find a Nintendo Switch that had Paw Patrol video game I could get her in. But it was like that connection I have with this person in my
Yeah.
community that, I'm not gonna lie, I would have drove right past if the Lord hadn't,
Right.
as I was just doing my. And at the end of that day, it ended up being this long day of going store to store to store and figuring out, and then I went home and wrapped it and gave it to her. Like, it was this long day of all of these things I did, but I was so filled.
Mm.
And I remember at one point asking Jesus, "Is it possible to just do this as a job? To just drive around and like meet people's needs like this? Like, is that
Yeah.
a thing we could do together?" I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
So, but if we weren't listening, then I wouldn't have heard. And to me, the original, when he's like, "Go talk to the girl," I was like, if I'm being honest, I was like, "No, I
Yeah.
don't want to."
Mm.
But what has come out of it is this beautiful relationship, this beautiful connection with somebody in my. So now, like, and sometimes I see her, sometimes I don't. Sometimes
Mm.
she's back on the street with her little sign. I'm like, "Hey, Rebecca, what's up?" "Oh
Yeah.
man, my internet bill, I don't have the money for the internet bill." I'm like, "I got $27. Sorry, that's all I got. Here you go. Love you. Is there anything I can be praying for you about?" She'll always tell me that. Yeah, pray
Yeah.
for her real quick. So it's like that connection. But you can do these things. So my whole point to say that was,
Yeah.
I was starting my day just to start my day. Like, when Jesus
Mm.
got on the road to go walk somewhere, he had a purpose. He was trying to walk somewhere. And then
Yeah.
people intersected with his path. And then amazing miracles came out of it. And that's kind of where I was going with that story is I just was starting my day. So how do I,
Mm.
wherever we are, we're just going about our day. Then he'll send a little invitation our way, and he's not saying do it like or else. It's like, do you want? Hey, do you want it? Do you want to do something crazy today? Do you want to go on an adventure with me today?
Yeah.
And in those little adventures is where it's like it's risky, right? Like that actually that adventure had some financial risk. It had a time
Sure.
commitment. It was multi-hour time commitment for me to run around and do all the things. But the reward, the filling of energy and connection that my soul gained in doing
Mhm.
that was like, I would have, if I'd have spent a day doing that, just running around, running errands, yeah, I'd have been drained at the end of the day. But on the end of that day, I was so charged up and so energized. Like that's where I was saying, like, you can rest and be
Mhm.
doing things when you're doing them with him and your identity selflessly for others. Like
Mm.
that's unconditional love. And it's intoxicating. Like you're like, hey, Lord, let's do it again. What's our next adventure, and filling at the same time. So I think that's kind of a better
Mhm.
definition of how I look at rest now.
Mhm. I can just see though, like the time commitment, the other things that come up, just all the chatter that can occur in our minds
Yeah.
about, I don't have time. What is this really about? Is this really from God? And all of that is, in my mind, it's just all coming from fear.
Yeah.
And at least for me, what I've found is that even if I follow a prompting, because I remember once, I think we were at the event together, the Movement Makers event, and I went on a jog in the morning, and there was a gas station, and the thought just going to that gas station, I'm going to the gas station, I'm looking around, just like, Lord, who's here? Is there anyone that I need to talk to? And there was a guard over there, and just like said hello, good morning. He's like, good morning, and then he headed out the door, and I'm just like, okay, anyone else, Lord? And I'm sitting there. I'm not there to purchase anything. I'm just a weirdo standing there, and there were people that came in and were getting coffee and other things, and it was just this internal wrestle of, do I talk with them? Do I not? I'm scared to. I'm not sure. I don't know what to say. And I ended up not talking to anybody. I ended up leaving, going back to the hotel room, taking a shower. And while taking the shower, just had this impression of like, thank you for doing that. And also, by following those little promptings, it created a situation in which I was in constant communication with the Lord.
Yeah. It's a great way to look at it.
Like, even if I didn't fulfill the full invitation, per se, we could call it a failure in that sense. Responding to the little thoughts created a scenario in which I was talking with the Lord and wrestling with something, allowing things to come up, and that provides an opportunity that I can then take to the Lord at a later time or whatever and say, Lord, like, help me with this fear. And now we're all of a sudden we're healing, we're changing, we're there's movement in all of that. There's progression, there's healing in all of that. So even if you don't do it right, or whatever it
Yeah.
is, it's just look at what's possible when you just go and see what happens.
And like, I think for me, a great way to like frame it for people is it's practice. Like if you were going to go join a
Mm,
basketball team, we're not going to the day we sign you up put you in a game. We're going to go practice. Like we're
yeah.
going to dribble together. We're going to drop the ball. We're going to miss shots. But we're going to learn. So, like an entire season of basketball, maybe you start for your first time ever playing, like you don't even really know the rules and you don't really know like what's your position. Like, I don't know. I've never played basketball before, but through practice, I learned,
Mm.
oh, aim with my elbow. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. So dribbling, like, I don't always have to use this hand. Oh, I can dribble with this hand. Whatever it is, like you learn along the way,
Right.
you're going to fail. So I've just learned, can we call it practice instead of whatever I don't know, performing? I don't know what
Yeah.
another word is, but yeah. So when you call it practice, it's like, this is the practice I'm going to go on. I'm going to practice listening to you today, Lord. Like that to me, that opens
Yeah.
up an invitation for
Yeah.
failure without taking on the identity of I'm a failure, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
okay to fail at practice.
I'm going to experiment listening to you
Yeah.
today. We're going to
Experimenting
try an experiment today. We're going to actually just listen to you as much as we can and fail.
and see where that
See
invitation
what
goes. And
happens.
then ask later, okay, like, hey, when I practiced, what do you want me to know about that? The
Mm,
story you were just telling about going into the or into the gas station reminded me. My wife and I went to the mall. We had to go in. It was like around before Christmas time. We had to go into the mall for something. I remember walking around. We couldn't find the store we needed, so we kind of walked all over the mall. And then on an escalator, basically to leave the mall, we're going up the escalator, and I see this gal who's up on the level that I'm coming up to. And the Lord just really pressed upon me. At least the feeling I had was, you need to go talk to her. But I was freaked out because we're in the middle of the mall. She looked like she didn't kind of fit in with the
mm,
vibe of the mall, where everybody looks good. She kind of like looked a little out of place, let's say, at a mall. And I just remember the Lord saying, go talk to her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no. And my wife's with me, and like she's ahead of me on the escalator. So she kind of gets off and starts walking. And I'm like, no.
mm.
And I left. And so as we're walking out to our car in the parking lot, I'm like mulling it over. I'm having that conversation with
Yep.
Lord. Like, I know that was an invitation from you. I know I kind of just blew it. Like, what do you want to say back to me? And all he told me was, you saw her and you heard me. Like what you did.
Mm,
You heard me say go into the gas station, and then you did it. Like that was it. That was the test. And then in my mind, I'm like, well, what if I would have talked to her? He's like, yeah, it would have been awesome. Like it would have gone to another level, but it's okay. At this level, you heard
mm,
me. And you even thought about it for a second, and I'm proud of that.
mm.
So I'm having this internal dialogue, and I get in the car and I sit down with my wife, and I'm processing it, and I go, let's take it to the next level. Maybe, potentially. I don't know. So I go, hey, babe, we were just in the mall, thousands of people we saw. The Lord told me to talk to one person. Who do you think that one person was? She goes, the girl at the top of the escalator.
Mm.
And I was like, how did you know that? She goes, I felt it too.
Oh man.
Whoa. But like he highlighted someone to both of us,
Mm,
and that moved us more.
mm,
So in those invitations, like to keep asking questions, treat it like an experiment, treat it like practice, treat it like, Lord, I want to get closer to you. I want to get better at hearing your voice. I want to be able to get into these invitations.
mhm,
Fear gets in the way. But what if even in my fear, I still believed that that was an invitation from you, and I asked you questions about it? Like,
mhm.
what was it that you wanted me to know about that?
Yeah.
And just and then yeah, so I don't know. Those failures you're talking about, we'll label them failures because God does use failure to learn. That's just what He does. But like even those can be so powerful to us when we hear what it is He wanted us to know in that. Like Him telling me, I was just proud of you for hearing me. Like you heard me in the middle of the mall. You heard my invitation.
Mhm.
Like, dude, way to go. Like, and then you thought about it. You didn't just go, no. Like, I literally, as I was going up, going, okay, if I go over to talk to her, oh, shoot, my wife's going over. Like, I was even mapping out what it, like, so,
How do I
and
do
he was
this?
like, I'm
Yeah.
proud of that too. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't an immediate no.
Mm.
So, anyway, that's what came to mind when you were
It's
telling your
so
story. It's
it,
like, that's,
it's so helpful because to just reframe the voice of God, because that's, I think, for anyone like me that's just lived a more, like, I feel like what I was taught is you need to follow the impressions. And if you don't, then it means that you're not following God. Like it just means so much negativity about you,
Yeah.
and it hits on an identity level that you let fear get in the way,
Mm.
and for to share it in a way of, and look at how the Lord's working with both of us, right? In our separate stories, same message. It's like, look at what these experiences are doing. Look how beautiful they are. I'm so proud of you. And that's just not the voice that we hear over the pulpit sometimes.
No.
It's I followed this impression, it was great. We don't hear about the failures.
Yeah.
About I didn't follow this impression and it was still great. No, we hear I didn't follow this impression and I missed out and I'm a failure now.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that just drives us right back to certainty, right? Like I
Yeah.
won't do it again unless I'm certain.
Or that if I do that enough times, if I don't honor the invitation enough times, he'll stop speaking to me. That's another thing I've heard and seen. It's just like, and
Yeah.
that's not true.
Yeah.
Why would he ever want to stop talking to you? Why would he ever want to do that? He just loves you too much. He's,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm. Thanks
And
for sharing that.
the truth that changed my life, and it's the good news I tell everybody now all the time whenever someone's like, "What is your witness? What is your good news?" It's that God's never been disappointed in you.
Mm.
Like, let that sink in. Like, never. Because that was not the God that I was serving for the first 30 years of my life. He's never been disappointed in you. And that even in those invitations you choose not to take, he's still not disappointed in you. Like,
Mm.
could it have been amazing? Yeah, probably, especially if he was inviting you into it.
Mm.
But he's not disappointed you didn't take it. And like in that case of the story I just told, he was like, I'm actually super proud of that fact that you heard me. Like
Mm.
this is practice. This is so oh, maybe somebody needed to hear that today. I feel like
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
truth right there.
Yeah. Before we close, I know that you mentioned at one point in time, I can't,
Mhm.
I, it must have been a conversation between us, that you had this crazy idea to like just pray with people and just say, "What's Lord, where do you want us to go? Just let's do something crazy. Let's do something
Yeah.
crazy." I'm curious whether or not you've implemented that, or whether that's something that was more you, or the Lord inviting you into it.
He's invited me into it,
Okay.
and I've shared let's do this with a couple of my close friends. I get a lot of positive feedback, but we haven't implemented it yet.
Mm.
So I don't have amazing stories on that yet, but I will hopefully soon.
Mm.
But I do have one that's similar to it, and that is that four nights ago now, 3 nights ago, I was getting ready for bed. Like, yeah, I thought my day was over. I was already in the shower, was getting ready to throw jammies on, call it a night. And my wife and my daughter were at an event for 4-H, and they came home, and my daughter's like, Dad, we need you. We need your help. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? She's like, well, we were driving home and we went by the park and ride, and there was a guy in his truck, and I felt like the Lord told me I need to go talk to him. And I'm like, whoa, like this is my daughter. Like
Mm.
she's 13.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, well, why didn't you go back and talk to him? She's like, well, we need you. You don't need me if God gave you the invitation. But I'm like, this is okay, let's go do it. Like this is one of these
Mm.
little like these are adventures. These are these little side quests. And then so I get in the car and I think she was expecting me to say, no, this is a bad idea. You know, like the old Chris, that's what I always
Sure.
said. It's 9 o'clock at night. You saw a guy on the side of the road in his truck and you
You want to talk to
want
him?
to do what? Like,
Yeah.
so, and those thoughts did go through my head. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like, okay, am I really a good dad to take my 13-year-old daughter to go talk to some random guy on the side of the road? Yeah, let's go get in the car. So, so we drive over there and I tell her, this is the little story I tell her. I go, hey, God gave you this invitation. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to stand right next to you. I'm going to be by your side and I'm super proud of you. But I really want you to be able to just say whatever your heart wants to say. And then, I say, I
Mm.
didn't give her the exact scripture, but I go, you know what it says in the Bible? It says that when you stand before judges and kings, he'll give you the words.
Mm.
So I just want you to know right now, you don't have to have this figured out.
Yeah.
Whatever you say in that moment, it's going to be whatever this person needs, right? So it wasn't far from home. So we got there really quick. Guy's still there, still in his truck. And so we it's the only car in the parking ride, by my house
Mhm.
is like whatever it is, 25 parking spaces or whatever. There's no one but him in it. And we park right next to him. So he's like, what is going on? And here comes my little 13-year-old gets out of the car. I get out of the car with her and I just stand next to her. And as we approached his window, kind of like half rolls it down, like what's going on here? And I don't say a word. And she just goes, "Oh, good evening, sir. We were driving by and I noticed you're in your car and I just felt like I needed to come back and check on you and see if you're okay. Are you okay?"
Mhm.
And so now he rolls his window down all the way because he's just like, okay, like this is whatever. And
Mhm.
and the first thing he does is spit out the window, which I thought was really weird, but whatever. Like that wasn't the answer I was expecting. And then he goes, "I'm okay." And like you could tell he's wrestling with here's this 13-year-old who's checking up on a grown man in his truck. And then he goes, "I'm just waiting for my girlfriend to meet me here." And so my daughter was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So she's like, "So you're okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." She goes, "Is there anything I can pray for you about?"
Mm.
Proud dad, you know? And he again, like he gets this puzzled look on his face, like, wow. And all he said was, "No, I'm okay, but I'm just shocked that you like had the courage to come and talk to me." I think that's what he said. I honestly don't remember his exact words, but just the look on his
Mm.
face. And so she's like, "Okay, well, hey, have a great night." And then he looks at me like, "What do I do?" And I said, "Hey, I was just trying to be a good dad." She had it in her heart to come speak to another human being and make sure they were okay. As a good dad, I just, I had to support her in this. So, I'm, sorry we bothered you, sir. I hope you have a great night. And he's like, "Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you." And then I think he even said something under his breath to the tune of like, "I can't believe that people would do that. I can't believe that someone would come back and check on me." Like
Wow.
we
Yeah.
literally moved him. So we get in the car and we're driving back home, and I'm all excited. In my mind, I'm like, "Wow, my daughter is so brave, and she heard from the Lord. This is so good." And then behind me, she's kind of sad. She goes, "Dad, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go."
Mm.
And I was like, "Well, how did you think it was going to go?" She's like, "I don't know. I thought we were going to like save him from something or be able to pray with him or something." And I'm like, "But baby girl, you moved him. Like you showed him another human was concerned for him. And I
Mm.
think the growth was for you, not for him." Like you're, she listened and she responded, you know?
Right.
And that's that practice we were just talking about. And a 13-year-old girl was not afraid to make her dad get out of his pajamas and get in the
Wow.
car. Like she was that moved by it. And then was so brave to stand there without any scripting, without any, and even offer to pray for him when that was, we were staying very neutral, it seemed. And then when we got home, I just gave her a huge hug and I just said, "I'm so proud of you. That was so awesome." So it's those kind of adventures that I want to do more.
Well, it's like your experience is the direct reflection of Heavenly Father's like experience with us.
Yeah.
Like even if you went to the parking lot and didn't talk to him, the the fact that she listened and got you to go, it's just how proud you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just the earthly dad proud. I can only imagine
Exactly.
how proud
Yeah.
he is.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just baffled, beautifully amazed at your
Yeah.
daughter. I'm amazed.
And
I
and
love
then
that.
afterwards she was like, "Okay, when can we do this again?" So, your question, like, when are we gonna do it? I think the ball's in my court because she's like, "Let's go do that again."
Wow.
So, yeah,
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
no problem.
Well, I'm excited for the next adventure. Just get it. Yeah. Just do it. All
Yeah,
right.
assume what you're hearing. Assume what you're hearing is truly him and
Yeah.
respond accordingly. Like what would that even I hate to say it this way, but sometimes I say this like just fake it till you make it. Like what if?
Yeah.
I know it's a dumb phrase and I don't say that we're faking it because we're not. But like what I mean by it is like what if we assumed that was the shift, the perspective shift is what if we assumed that thought is truly an invitation from God? What would happen? And what if we shifted that
Yeah.
failure is just learning? Like,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Any
Practice. Let's go practice.
any belief that gives you permission to go forward. It's like
Yeah.
the worst that could happen is that Jesus is proud of you
Yeah.
for honoring any, for even acknowledging that it was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst that could happen. So just go for it. Oh my
Exactly.
goodness. I love this. Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that, Chris.
No problem.
Yeah. And we'll connect again another time and just chat and just catch up because I just love keeping in contact with you. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah.
All
All right,
right.
brother.
Thank you, Tyson.
I'll talk to you later, my friend.
Proud of you.
Thank you. We'll see ya.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye bye.